What happens when the most powerful woman in the city crumbles in front of the one person who isn't supposed to see it? Tonight, I'm sharing a story about masks we wear, walls we build, and the unexpected moment everything falls apart. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights of Langford Industries buzzed with the same relentless energy that had defined the past 18 months. Daniel Hayes stood near the break room, a plastic cup of lukewarm coffee in his hand, watching the celebration unfold from a safe distance. He'd never been comfortable at these things. Office parties, corporate backslapping, the forced camaraderie that came with hitting quarterly projections. Tonight was different, though. Tonight was bigger. The Harrison merger had closed. $43 million, 300 new jobs, front page of the business section for a week straight. Victoria Langford had pulled it off, and now the 30th floor looked like New Year's Eve had shown up 3 months early. Champagne flutes clinked. Laughter bounced off the glass walls. Someone had turned the conference room into a makeshift dance floor, and the bass line from some song Daniel didn't recognize throbbed through the floor beneath his feet. He didn't belong here. Not really. Daniel was 32, divorced for 4 years, and the single father of a 6-year-old daughter named Emma, who asked too many questions and believed in magic with the kind of certainty that made his chest ache. He worked in operations, logistics, supply chain coordination, the unglamorous machinery that kept everything running while people like Victoria Langford stood in front of cameras and talked about vision and innovation. He wore the same 3 button-downs on rotation, drove a 7-year-old sedan with a crack in the windshield, and his idea of celebrating a big win involved pepperoni pizza and letting Emma stay up past bedtime. But he'd been invited. Email from HR. All staff welcome. So here he was, nursing bad coffee and counting the minutes until he could leave without seeming rude. The crowd near the windows thickened as someone proposed a toast. Daniel recognized Marcus Chen from acquisitions, already 3 drinks deep and gesturing wildly. Beside him, Jennifer Park from legal laughed at something Daniel couldn't hear. The whole scene felt choreographed, like everyone had agreed in advance to perform enthusiasm. Everyone except Victoria. Daniel noticed her before he understood why he was looking. She stood alone near the elevator bank, just outside the main cluster of celebrating employees. Even from across the room, she cut a striking figure, tall, sharp-featured, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Daniel's monthly rent. Her dark hair was pulled back in a style that looked effortless but wasn't. Everything about her screamed control, precision, authority. But something was off. She swayed, just slightly. A barely perceptible shift in her weight, like the floor beneath her had tilted a fraction of a degree. Her hand reached for the wall. Not dramatically, not obviously, just a small movement that most people would miss. Daniel almost missed it himself. She blinked slowly, her expression distant, unfocused. For a moment she looked like she was somewhere else entirely. Daniel glanced around. Nobody else seemed to notice. Marcus was still holding court. Jennifer had moved on to another conversation. The party churned forward, oblivious. Victoria pressed her fingertips to her temple. Her jaw tightened. She looked... Fragile wasn't the right word. Victoria Langford wasn't fragile, but standing there alone while 300 people celebrated her success, she looked like someone barely holding on. Daniel set his coffee cup on the nearest desk and started walking. He didn't think about it. Didn't weigh the appropriateness of approaching the CEO when she clearly wanted to be left alone. Didn't consider how it might look. Middle management guy crossing the invisible boundaries that kept people like him separated from people like her. He just moved. The noise of the party faded as he approached the elevator bank. The hallway here was quieter, dimmer. Victoria had her back to him now, one hand flat against the wall, her shoulders rising and falling with careful, measured breaths. Ms. Langford? She turned too quickly, and for half a second her expression was completely unguarded, raw, exhausted, something close to panic. Then the mask snapped back into place. Her spine straightened, her chin lifted. The CEO returned. Daniel. Her voice came out steady, professional. Enjoying the party? Not really. He kept his tone light, non-threatening. You okay? Of course. The words came automatically. Just needed some air. You sure? Because you looked... I'm fine. Sharper now. the corporate armor fully engaged. Thank you for asking. Daniel should have backed off, should have nodded, made some polite excuse, and returned to his corner of the party. Instead, he said, "When's the last time you ate something?" Victoria blinked. Excuse me? Or slept. Actually slept, I mean, more than 4 hours. Something flickered across her face. Confusion, maybe. Or surprise that someone had asked. I don't see how that's relevant, Daniel finished. Yeah, probably not. But you're leaning on that wall like it's the only thing keeping you upright. And I've seen that look before. My ex-wife used to get it, right before she'd crash. I'm not your ex-wife. No kidding. A long silence stretched between them. Behind them, someone laughed loud enough to echo down the hallway. Victoria's gaze drifted toward the sound, then away, like she couldn't quite bring herself to look at all those people celebrating her name. I just need to get home, she said quietly. I called a car. It should be here soon. You sure you should be alone right now? Her eyes snapped to his, sharp and defensive. What's that supposed to mean? Daniel held up his hands. Nothing sinister. I just mean, you don't look great, and I'd feel like garbage if I let you leave and something happened. Let me? Her voice dropped to something dangerously low. You don't let me do anything, Mr. Hayes. Fair point. He met her stare without flinching. But I'm asking anyway. Let me make sure you get home okay. Victoria studied him. Really looked at him. Maybe for the first time since he'd started working here 2 years ago. Daniel wondered what she saw. A guy in a slightly rumpled shirt, coffee stain on the cuff he'd tried to hide under his sleeve. Wedding ring long gone, but the pale band still visible on his finger. Nothing impressive, nothing intimidating. Maybe that's why she said, "Fine." Daniel wasn't expecting it. Yeah? Yes. Victoria pushed off the wall, wobbled for a fraction of a second, then steadied herself. But I'm perfectly capable of… Sure, absolutely. I'll just walk with you, keep you company. She looked like she wanted to argue, but something stopped her. Exhaustion, maybe. Or the simple realization that fighting would take more energy than she had left. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. They stepped inside together. The doors closed, sealing them in chrome and silence. Daniel watched the numbers descend. 28, 27, 26. Victoria leaned against the railing, her eyes half closed. Big night, Daniel said. The merger, I mean. That's a huge deal. It is. You must be proud. Victoria's laugh came out sharp and bitter. Proud, sure. Daniel glanced at her. You're not? She opened her eyes. I'm tired, Mr. Hayes. Daniel's fine. I'm tired, Daniel. She emphasized his name like it was a foreign word she was testing out. I've been working on Harrison for 16 months. 16 months of meetings and negotiations and playing chess with people who'd sell their own grandmothers for a percentage point. And now it's done, and everyone's upstairs drinking champagne, and all I can think about is how we have to do it all over again next quarter. Sounds exhausting. It is. The elevator reached the parking garage. The doors opened onto concrete and fluorescent lights, and the smell of motor oil. Victoria's car sat near the entrance, a black sedan that probably cost more than Daniel would earn in 5 years. A driver stood beside it, checking his phone. Ms. Langford. The driver straightened. Ready to go. Victoria hesitated. For a moment she looked lost, like she'd forgotten where she was supposed to be going. Then she turned to Daniel. Thank you for the escort. Let me ride with you. Monsieur, that's not necessary. Probably not, but humor me. Another long pause. The driver glanced between them, confused. Finally, Victoria sighed. Fine. Michael, Mr. Hayes will be joining us. Michael, the driver, nodded and opened the rear door. Victoria slid inside and Daniel followed. The interior smelled like leather and something floral he couldn't identify. The seats were impossibly soft. This was not the kind of car Daniel had ever been in before. Michael pulled out of the garage and into the rainy Seattle night. The city slid past the windows, lights blurred by water, buildings reflected in puddles, the whole world soft and indistinct. Victoria sat on the far side of the back seat, her gaze fixed somewhere beyond the glass. Daniel didn't try to fill the silence. He'd learned that from Emma. Sometimes people just needed space to exist without having to perform or explain themselves. So he sat and watched the rain and waited. After 10 minutes, Victoria spoke. "You have a daughter." It wasn't a question. Daniel wondered how she knew. "Yeah, Emma, she's 6. She's lucky." "How do you figure?" "You care." Victoria still wasn't looking at him. About whether people are okay, whether they've eaten, whether they should be alone. Most people don't. Most people are just trying to get through the day. And you're not? Daniel smiled. "Oh, I definitely am, but I can multitask." That got something close to a laugh. Small, but real. They drove in silence for another few minutes before the car pulled up in front of a high-rise near Pike Place Market. Daniel recognized the building, luxury condos, the kind with doormen and private elevators and views that cost extra. Michael opened the door. Victoria stepped out, then looked back at Daniel. "Thank you for this." "No problem." She turned toward the building entrance, took 3 steps and stopped. Her hand went to her forehead. Her knees buckled slightly. Daniel was out of the car before he realized he'd moved. He caught her elbow, steadying her. "Okay, yeah, I'm coming up. I'm fine. You're about to fall over. Let's just get you inside, make sure you're okay, then I'll leave. Deal?" Victoria looked at him, really looked, past the automatic defenses and corporate reflexes, and nodded. The lobby was all marble and modern art. The doorman greeted Victoria by name but said nothing about Daniel, which suggested he was well-trained in not asking questions. They took the elevator to the 14th floor. Victoria fumbled with her keys, and Daniel gently took them from her hand, unlocking the door. The apartment was dark. Daniel found a light switch, and soft illumination filled a living space that looked like something from an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimalist furniture in shades of gray and white. Everything clean, perfect, untouched. Empty. Victoria made it to the couch before her legs gave out. She sat heavily, her head dropping into her hands. Daniel stood awkwardly near the door. "Can I get you something? Water? Food?" "I'm fine." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." Huh? Daniel spotted the kitchen. Open concept, gleaming appliances that looked like they'd never been used. He filled a glass with water and brought it back, setting it on the coffee table in front of her. "Drink." Victoria looked at the glass like it was a puzzle she couldn't solve. Then, slowly, she picked it up and took a sip. Then another. She drained half the glass before setting it down. "When's the last time you drank water?" Daniel asked. "I don't know." "Yeah, that's a problem." Silence settled over the apartment. Outside, the rain had picked up, drops pattering against the windows. The city lights glowed softly through the glass, painting everything in shades of amber and shadow. Victoria's hands were shaking. Daniel sat down on the opposite end of the couch, maintaining distance. "You want to talk about it?" "About what?" "Whatever's eating you." "Nothing's eating me." "Right, so you just regularly almost pass out at company parties?" She glared at him. "You don't know anything about me." "True, but I know what burning out looks like, and Ms. Langford, Victoria." "What?" "If you're going to sit in my apartment and interrogate me, at least use my name." Daniel nodded. "Okay, Victoria. I know what burning out looks like, and you're there, or past there." She was quiet for a long time, her fingers twisted together in her lap. When she finally spoke, her voice was so soft Daniel almost missed it. "I'm scared." The words hung in the air like smoke. Daniel waited. "I'm scared," Victoria repeated, louder now. "All the time, every day. Every decision, every meeting. I'm terrified that I'm going to make the wrong call and everything's going to fall apart. That people will realize I don't actually know what I'm doing, that I'm just making it up as I go." "Isn't everyone?" She looked at him sharply. "What?" "Making it up. I mean, nobody really knows what they're doing, right? We're all just trying our best and hoping it works out." "That's not how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to have answers. I'm supposed to be confident, in control. People are counting on me. 3,000 employees, shareholders, investors. If I fail, you won't. You don't know that." "No," Daniel admitted. But failing or not failing isn't really the problem, is it? The problem is you're carrying all of it alone. Victoria's composure cracked. Just a hairline fracture, but Daniel saw it. Her eyes got bright. Her breathing turned shallow. I don't have a choice. Why not? Because that's what it means to be in charge. You don't get to be weak. You don't get to fall apart. You have to be... Her voice broke. She pressed her palms against her eyes. You have to be perfect. That's bullshit. She laughed, wet, choked. Excuse me? Nobody's perfect, and pretending you are is just... It's exhausting. Trust me, I know. How would you know? Daniel shrugged. Because I spent 3 years trying to be the perfect husband, perfect father. Keep everything together, never complain, never show weakness. And you know what happened? My marriage fell apart anyway. Turned out trying to be perfect just meant I wasn't being real, and that was worse. Victoria lowered her hands. Her eyes were red-rimmed, mascara slightly smudged. She looked human, breakable, real. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Do what? Any of it. I built this company from nothing. I fought for every inch, and now that I have it, I'm terrified someone's going to take it away, or that I'll destroy it myself, or that I'll wake up one day and realize I gave up everything, friends, relationships, sleep, any kind of normal life, for something that doesn't even matter. Does it matter? I don't know. The admission seemed to cost her something. I used to think so, but lately I just feel empty, like I'm running on fumes and there's nothing left. Daniel didn't have an answer for that. He wasn't a therapist, wasn't qualified to fix whatever was broken here. But he remembered sitting alone in his apartment 4 years ago, after Lauren left, holding Emma while she cried and feeling like the world had ended. He remembered the weight of it, the loneliness, the fear, the crushing certainty that he'd failed at something fundamental. He remembered the neighbor who'd knocked on his door with a casserole and stayed to listen when he finally broke down. Sometimes the answer wasn't fixing. Sometimes it was just being there. You're not alone, Daniel said quietly. Victoria looked at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. What? I know it feels like it, but you're not alone. Not tonight, anyway. You don't even know me. So? Doesn't mean I can't sit here and make sure you're okay. Something shifted in her expression, surprise maybe, or disbelief that someone would do this without wanting something in return. She opened her mouth, closed it, started to speak, stopped. Why? She finally asked. Why what? Why are you doing this? You could have left, should have left. I'm your boss's boss's boss. This is, she gestured vaguely between them, inappropriate. Daniel considered that. Yeah, probably. But you looked like you needed help, and I'm pretty good at ignoring what I'm supposed to do when it conflicts with what's right. Victoria stared at him. Then slowly, something loosened in her shoulders. The rigid control she'd been maintaining since the party slipped, just a fraction. She exhaled, long, shaky. I'm so tired, she said. I know. I can't remember the last time I slept more than 3 hours. That's not sustainable. I know that too. She rubbed her eyes. But if I stop, if I slow down for even a second, everything catches up. The fear, the doubt, the everything. So you just keep moving. Yes. Until you collapse. Victoria didn't argue. She just sat there, looking smaller than Daniel had ever seen her, not physically, but in some essential way. Like the weight she'd been carrying had finally exceeded her capacity to bear it. The rain continued its rhythm against the windows. The city hummed below, oblivious. In the dim light of the apartment, they were just 2 people, one breaking, one holding space for the breaking. Can I tell you something? Victoria asked. Sure. I hate this apartment. Daniel blinked. What? I bought it because it's what successful people do. Luxury condo, good address, impressive view, but I've lived here for 2 years and it doesn't feel like home. It feels like a hotel, like I'm just passing through. Maybe because you are. She looked at him. What do you mean? I mean, this place looks like a showroom. Nothing personal, No pictures, no mess, no sign anyone actually lives here. It's like you're not letting yourself settle anywhere. Like if you don't put down roots, you can't be disappointed when you have to leave. Victoria's breath caught. How did you... Lucky guess. Daniel smiled slightly. Or maybe I recognize it. After my divorce, I did the same thing. Kept my place bare bones. Minimum furniture, nothing on the walls. Figured if I didn't invest in it, I couldn't get attached. Couldn't get hurt again. What changed? Emma drew me a picture, stick figures of us holding hands. She wanted to put it on the fridge, but I didn't have any magnets because I'd never bothered to buy them. And she looked so sad that I drove to the store that night and bought a whole pack, put her picture up. Then another. Then I got some plants because she said the apartment was too quiet. Then some books. And before I knew it, the place actually felt lived in. Because of your daughter. Yeah, she made it home, made it matter. Victoria's expression went distant. I don't have anyone to make it matter. You could. Could I? She laughed bitterly. Look at me. 30 years old, running a multi-million-dollar company, and I can't maintain a relationship longer than 3 months. The last guy I dated told me I was married to my work, and he was right. So change. It's not that simple. Isn't it? Victoria shook her head. You don't understand. If I ease up, if I let my guard down, everything falls apart. I've seen it happen. My father built a company and lost it because he trusted the wrong people. Got complacent. I swore I'd never make that mistake. And instead you're making a different one. She bristled, which is thinking you have to do it alone. The words landed hard. Victoria went very still. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then, quietly, I don't know how to do it any other way. Maybe you start small. Ask for help. Delegate. Let people in. And if they let me down, then they do. But keeping everyone at arm's length to avoid disappointment, that's just another way of being alone. Victoria looked at him, really looked, with an intensity that made Daniel shift uncomfortably. He felt exposed, like she was seeing past his own defenses to the lonely, uncertain parts he usually kept hidden. You talk like someone who's been there, she said. I have. Still there sometimes. Single dad with full custody, working a job that barely pays the bills, trying to figure out how to raise a kid when half the time I feel like a kid myself. Yeah, I've been there. But you keep going. Don't have much choice. Emma needs me. And that's enough? Daniel thought about it. Most days, some days it's not. Some days I'm convinced I'm screwing everything up and she'd be better off with literally anyone else. But then she'll do something, draw me a picture, tell me about her day, fall asleep on my lap watching cartoons, and I remember why I do it. Because you love her. Yeah, that helps. Victoria's eyes grew distant again. I don't have that. You could. No, I chose this, the company, the success, the money. I chose it over everything else. And now, she trailed off. Now you're wondering if it was worth it. She didn't answer. Didn't need to. The truth was written all over her face, in the exhaustion, the loneliness, the desperate fragility she was trying so hard to hide. Thunder rumbled somewhere over the city. Victoria flinched slightly at the sound. I should let you sleep, Daniel said, starting to stand. Wait. He froze. Victoria was looking at him with something close to panic. Don't go. Not yet, please. Daniel sat back down. Okay. I'm sorry, that was... I don't usually... It's fine. I'll stay as long as you want. Relief washed over her features. She looked away, embarrassed. I don't know why I'm like this. I'm not usually vulnerable. Everyone's vulnerable sometimes. Not me. I can't afford to be. Maybe that's the problem. Victoria pulled her knees up onto the couch, a gesture so unguarded it made her look younger, less like a CEO and more like someone who needed comfort. Do you ever feel like you're pretending, like you're playing a role, and if you stop, everyone will see you're a fraud? Every single day. She looked at him, surprised. Really? Really? I go to work and pretend I have my life together. Go home and pretend I know what I'm doing as a father. The whole time I'm terrified someone's going to pull back the curtain and see I'm making it all up. But you seem so grounded, Daniel laughed. Yeah, well, good poker face, I guess. Or maybe I'm just too tired to care anymore. Pretending takes energy. Doesn't it, though? Victoria's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I'm exhausted from it. Being strong, being perfect, being whatever everyone needs me to be. I don't even know who I am anymore. So stop pretending. And do what? Just be. Mess up. Admit you don't have all the answers. Let people see you're human. They'll lose respect for me. Maybe. Or maybe they'll respect you more because you're real. Victoria considered this, her expression troubled. Outside, the rain intensified, sheets of water cascading down the windows. The city lights blurred into abstract patterns. I'm scared, she said again. I know. What if I can't do this anymore? The company, the pressure, all of it. What if I just break? Then you break. And then you figure out how to put yourself back together. That's easy for you to say. No, it's not. It's the hardest thing I've ever learned. But it's also true. You're not made of glass, Victoria. You bend, you crack, you survive. That's what people do. She was quiet for a long time. Then, will you tell me about your daughter? The shift in topic caught Daniel off guard. Emma? Yes. What's she like? Daniel smiled, the expression coming naturally for the first time tonight. She's incredible. Asks a million questions. Believes in magic and fairies and the tooth fairy, even though I'm pretty sure she knows I'm the one leaving money under her pillow. She draws these elaborate pictures of dragons and castles. Wants to be a veterinarian one week, an astronaut the next. She's fearless in a way I never was. She sounds wonderful. She is. She's also stubborn as hell and refuses to eat vegetables and throws tantrums when things don't go her way. But yeah, she's everything. Victoria's expression softened. You're lucky. I know. I always wanted kids, not seriously, not like a plan, but in the abstract, someday. When there was time. But there's never time. There could be. Not for someone like me. How would that even work? I'm at the office 70 hours a week. I travel constantly. I can't even keep a houseplant alive. Those are logistics, not reasons. Victoria shook her head. It's too late. I chose my path. Nothing's too late unless you decide it is. She looked at him with an expression Daniel couldn't quite read, something between hope and despair. Why are you being so kind to me? Because you need it, and because someone was kind to me when I needed it. Seems like the right thing to do. Most people aren't like that. Maybe you've been around the wrong people. A small, sad smile crossed her face. Maybe. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Victoria's eyes started to droop. The adrenaline and tension were draining away, leaving her looking bone-tired. Daniel wondered when she'd last let herself truly rest. You should sleep, he said gently. I will. In a bit. Victoria. I know, I don't want to be alone right now. Is that pathetic? No, it's human. She looked at him gratefully. Thank you. For staying. For listening. For not treating me like I'm made of porcelain or judging me for falling apart. Everyone falls apart sometimes. Doesn't make you weak. It feels weak. That's the exhaustion talking. Tomorrow, when you've slept and eaten and had some time to breathe, this'll all look different. Victoria nodded, though she didn't look convinced. Her eyelids fluttered. She was fighting sleep, Daniel realized. Fighting the vulnerability that came with letting go. I'll stay until you fall asleep, he offered. Make sure you're okay. You don't have to. I know, but I will. She studied his face, searching for something. Whatever she found seemed to satisfy her because she nodded and settled deeper into the couch. Just for a few minutes. Sure. Within 5 minutes, her breathing had evened out. Her features smoothed, the tension lines around her eyes and mouth relaxing. Asleep, she looked younger, less burdened. Daniel wondered if this was the first peaceful rest she'd had in months. He stayed for another 20 minutes, making sure she wasn't going to wake up. Then carefully, he found a blanket draped over an armchair and laid it over her. She stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Daniel left quietly, locking the door behind him and leaving the keys with the building's doorman. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets wet and glistening under the streetlights. The city felt fresh, washed clean. He walked to the nearest bus stop, hands in his pockets, thinking about the woman he'd just left sleeping in her too-perfect apartment, thinking about masks and breaking points and the strange intimacy that came from seeing someone at their lowest. Tomorrow, she'd probably go back to being the untouchable CEO. He'd go back to being just another employee. Tonight would become a weird blip, something they'd both pretend didn't happen. But for now, in this quiet moment between rain and morning, Daniel had done something simple. He'd seen someone struggling and chosen not to look away. Sometimes that was enough. The bus ride home took 40 minutes. Daniel stared out the rain-streaked window, watching the city slip past in smears of light and shadow. His phone buzzed twice. Texts from his sister asking if he was still at the party, if he'd talked to anyone interesting. He didn't reply. Didn't know how to explain what had just happened, or if he even should. By the time he reached his apartment building in Ballard, it was past midnight. The babysitter, Mrs. Chen from down the hall, was asleep on his couch with the television murmuring softly. Daniel paid her, thanked her, waited until she shuffled back to her own place before checking on Emma. She was sprawled across her bed in a tangle of blankets and stuffed animals, one arm flung over her favorite elephant. Her nightlight cast soft stars across the ceiling. Daniel stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching her breathe. This small person who needed him, who made everything matter. He thought about Victoria's empty apartment, the pristine furniture, the absence of anything personal, the way she'd looked when she'd said she didn't have anyone to make it matter. Daniel pulled Emma's blanket up over her shoulder and kissed her forehead. She stirred, mumbled something about dragons, settled back into sleep. In his own room, Daniel sat on the edge of his bed and finally let himself feel the strangeness of the night. He'd just spent 2 hours with Victoria Langford, the Victoria Langford. And she'd cried, admitted she was scared, asked him to stay because she didn't want to be alone. It felt surreal, like something that had happened to someone else. His phone buzzed again. This time it was an email notification, probably work stuff he'd deal with Monday. He ignored it and fell asleep still wearing his work clothes. Saturday morning arrived with Emma jumping on his bed at 7:15, demanding pancakes and asking why he smelled weird. "I don't smell weird," Daniel protested, though he definitely needed a shower. "You smell like grown-up party," Emma announced with the confidence of someone who'd never been to a grown-up party. "Did you have fun?" "It was fine." "Did you talk to anyone?" "A few people." "Did you make any friends?" Daniel thought about Victoria, asleep on her couch, vulnerable and exhausted. "Maybe. I don't know yet." Emma seemed satisfied with this answer and dragged him to the kitchen to make good on the pancake promise. They spent the morning in easy routine, breakfast, cartoons, a trip to the park despite the lingering dampness from last night's rain. Emma found a stick she declared magical and spent 20 minutes casting spells on pigeons. Normal. Safe. The kind of Saturday that made Daniel forget about corporate parties and billionaire CEOs having breakdowns. Except he couldn't quite forget. He kept thinking about the way Victoria's voice had cracked when she'd said she was scared. The resignation in her expression when she'd talked about her too-perfect apartment feeling like a hotel. The desperate relief when he'd agreed to stay. By Sunday afternoon, Daniel had almost convinced himself it had been a fever dream. Monday morning, he'd go back to work, and everything would be exactly the same. Victoria would be the untouchable CEO again. He'd be the guy in operations who nobody noticed. They'd pass in hallways and she wouldn't even remember his name. That would be easier. Monday proved him half right. Daniel arrived at the office at 8:30, coffee in hand, mentally preparing for the usual grind of emails and logistics meetings. The 30th floor looked normal. No evidence of Friday's party except some extra recycling bins near the break room. People moved through their morning routines with the glazed efficiency of corporate drones everywhere. Marcus Chen cornered Daniel near the elevator. "Hayes, hell of a party Friday, right?" "Yeah, it was something." "Did you see Langford's speech?" "God damn inspiring. That woman's a machine." And Daniel thought about Victoria trembling on her couch, admitting she didn't know what she was doing. "Sure." You left early, though, didn't you? I looked for you around 10 and you were gone. Had to get back to my kid. Right. The single dad thing. Marcus said it like it was a character trait, something quirky but ultimately irrelevant. Must be tough. It's fine. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder and wandered off toward his cubicle. Daniel exhaled slowly and headed to his own desk. The morning passed in a blur of emails and spreadsheets. Daniel reviewed shipping schedules, coordinated with suppliers, dealt with a minor crisis involving delayed components from a manufacturer in Taiwan. Normal stuff. The machinery of business grinding forward. At 11, his desk phone rang. Daniel Hayes? Mr. Hayes, this is Stephanie from Ms. Langford's office. The voice was crisp, professional. Ms. Langford would like to see you at 11:30. Are you available? Daniel's stomach dropped. Yeah, sure. Is everything 11:30, 14th floor, executive suite. Thank you. The line went dead. Daniel stared at the phone. 14 minutes. He had 14 minutes to figure out what the hell this was about, and whether he was about to be fired for inappropriate boundary crossing. He spent those 14 minutes spiraling. Should he have left her apartment Friday night? Should he not have gone in the first place? Had he overstepped? Said something wrong? Maybe she'd reported him to HR. Maybe this was the professional, corporate way of making sure he understood his place. At 11:28, Daniel stepped into the elevator and pressed 14. The executive floor was different from the rest of the building, quieter. The carpet was thicker, the lighting softer. Everything whispered money and power. A receptionist sat at a sleek desk that probably cost more than Daniel's car. Daniel Hayes, he said, voice rougher than intended. I have an 11:30 with Ms. Langford. The receptionist smiled professionally. Of course. One moment. She spoke quietly into her headset, then gestured toward a hallway. Third door on the left. Ms. Langford is expecting you. Daniel's hands were sweating. He wiped them on his pants and walked down the hallway, past offices with closed doors and abstract art on the walls. The third door was slightly ajar. He knocked. Come in. Victoria's office was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a desk that looked hand-carved from expensive wood, bookshelves lined with business texts and awards. Victoria herself sat behind the desk, wearing a navy suit that looked fresh from a magazine cover. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, every inch the composed CEO. She looked up as Daniel entered, and for just a second, barely a heartbeat, something flickered in her expression. Recognition, maybe embarrassment. Then the professional mask locked into place. Mr. Hayes, thank you for coming. Daniel stood awkwardly near the door. You wanted to see me? Please sit. She gestured to one of the chairs across from her desk. Daniel sat. The chair was obscenely comfortable. Victoria folded her hands on the desk. I wanted to thank you for Friday night. Oh, you don't have to. I do. Her voice was firm. You went above and beyond, and I appreciate it. I wasn't myself. It's fine, really. It's not fine. I put you in an uncomfortable position, and I'm sorry. Daniel frowned. This felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced it. You didn't put me anywhere. I offered to help. Still, it was inappropriate of me to accept. Why? Victoria blinked. Excuse me? Why was it inappropriate? You needed help. I helped. Seems pretty straightforward. She looked thrown by this. I'm your employer. There are boundaries. Yeah, but you're also a person, and people help each other. Silence stretched between them. Victoria's carefully constructed composure wavered. She glanced at the door, then back at Daniel. I don't usually. She stopped, started again. Friday was unusual. I want you to know that. Okay. I mean, I don't typically fall apart like that. You didn't fall apart. You were exhausted. I was weak. You were human. Victoria's jaw tightened. I can't afford to be human, Mr. Hayes. Not in this position. Daniel, and that's bullshit. Her eyes widened. Excuse me? It's bullshit, Daniel repeated. You can't just be a CEO 24/7. You'll burn out, or you already have, and you're just running on fumes. That's not your concern. Maybe not. But I'm sitting here anyway, so... Victoria stared at him like he was a puzzle she couldn't solve. You're very direct. Yeah, well, life's too short to dance around things. Another long pause, then quietly, how did you sleep Friday night? The shift in topic caught Daniel off guard. Fine, I guess. Why? I slept 12 hours. Victoria's voice was soft, almost wondering. I don't think I've slept 12 hours straight since college. I woke up yesterday afternoon and couldn't remember where I was. That's good though, right? You needed it. I suppose. She looked away toward the windows. I also woke up mortified. About what? About breaking down in front of an employee, about showing weakness, about... She trailed off. About being real? Daniel offered. Victoria's gaze snapped back to him. Is that what you think that was? Being real? Yeah, I do. It was unprofessional. It was honest. Honesty is a luxury I can't afford. Daniel leaned forward slightly. Can I ask you something? Victoria hesitated. I suppose. Why did you call me up here? Really? Not the corporate thank you speech. Why am I sitting in your office right now? She was quiet for a long time. Her fingers drummed once on the desk, then stilled. When she spoke, her voice was different. Less CEO, more the person he'd sat with Friday night. Because you saw me. Actually saw me, and I don't. She paused. I don't know what to do with that. Daniel didn't know what to say to that. The vulnerability in her voice was jarring against the perfect office, the expensive suit, the controlled environment. You don't have to do anything with it, he said finally. It happened. You needed help. I was there. That's all. Is it? What else would it be? Victoria studied him. Most people would use something like that. Leverage, a favor owed, something. I'm not most people. I'm starting to realize that. The air in the office felt thick. Daniel shifted in his chair. So what now? Is this the part where you tell me to forget Friday happened and maintain professional distance? That would be the smart thing. Yeah, probably. But I'm not sure I want to. Daniel blinked. What? Victoria stood, moving to the window. She stood with her back to him, silhouetted against the cityscape. I've been thinking about what you said, about being real, about letting people in. Okay. I don't know how to do that. I've spent so long building walls, maintaining distance. It keeps things safe, predictable. Lonely, Daniel added quietly. She glanced back at him. Yes, lonely. A pause. I hired a therapist this weekend. Yeah? First session is Wednesday. I don't know if it'll help, but she shrugged. It's a start. That's good, really good. I also spoke to my board about delegating more, but brought in a COO to handle day-to-day operations so I can focus on strategy instead of trying to do everything myself. Daniel smiled. Sounds like you had a productive weekend. I had a wake-up call Friday night. Couldn't ignore it anymore. She turned to face him fully. That was you. You forced me to look at what I was doing to myself. I just listened. No, you did more than that. You stayed when you didn't have to. You didn't judge or try to fix me. You just were there. Her voice caught slightly. Nobody's done that in a long time. Daniel didn't know how to respond to that. The gratitude in her expression felt too heavy, too significant. Anyone would have done the same, he said. No, they wouldn't. Most people see the CEO. You saw the person. She moved back toward the desk, but didn't sit. I want to apologize for putting you in that position, and I want to thank you for not taking advantage of it. You don't need to thank me for basic human decency. Maybe I do. Maybe that's part of the problem. I'm so used to people wanting something that genuine kindness feels like a threat. That's depressing. Victoria laughed, short, surprised. Yes, it is. Silence fell again, but it felt different now. Less tense, almost comfortable. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. Sure. What made you come over Friday night at the party? You could have ignored me. Should have, probably. Daniel thought about it. I saw someone who needed help. Seemed like the right thing to do. That simple? Yeah, that's simple. You're a better person than most. I'm really not. I'm just a dad trying to get through the week without screwing up too badly. Victoria smiled, small, genuine. You're doing better than you think. How would you know? Because your daughter is lucky to have you, and because you helped a stranger without expecting anything in return. That says something. Daniel felt heat creep up his neck. He wasn't good with compliments. Yeah, well, you caught me on a good day. I doubt that. I think you're probably like this most days. You don't know me well enough to say that. Maybe not, but I'd like to. The words hung in the air. Daniel's brain stuttered trying to process them. What? Victoria looked almost as surprised as he felt. I'd like to get to know you, if that's something you'd be open to. Like, professionally? Like as a person? She paused. Is that inappropriate? I can't tell anymore. The boundaries are all confused. I mean, you're still technically my boss. I am, which makes this complicated. Yeah. But I haven't had an actual conversation with someone, a real conversation, not corporate politics or strategy meetings, in longer than I can remember. And Friday night, talking to you. It felt like breathing after holding my breath for years. Daniel's chest tightened. I don't think I'm the person you're making me out to be. Why not? Because I'm nobody. I work in logistics. I drive a crappy car and eat ramen twice a week because it's cheap. My life is dropping my kid at school and answering emails and trying not to fall asleep during conference calls. I'm not interesting. You listened when I fell apart. You stayed when you could have left. You treated me like a human being instead of a title. That's interesting to me. That's just basic decency. Exactly. And somehow that's become rare enough to be remarkable. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. I don't know what you're asking me. I'm asking if we can be friends. Or something like it. I know it's strange. I know I'm your employer and there are power dynamics and probably 50 HR policies against this. But I'm tired of being isolated, and you're the first person in years who's seen me without wanting something. I work for you. Technically, I want a paycheck. Victoria smiled. You know what I mean. Daniel did know. He also knew this was probably a terrible idea. Getting personally involved with the CEO, even as friends, was asking for complications. Office politics, gossip, the appearance of favoritism. But he looked at Victoria standing in her perfect office with her carefully constructed life, and all he could see was the woman on the couch Friday night asking him not to leave. Okay, he heard himself say. Okay? Yeah, friends, or whatever, sure. Relief washed over Victoria's face. Really? Why not? Life's weird anyway. She laughed, genuine, surprised. It is, isn't it? So what does this look like? Weekly coffee meetings? Do we exchange friendship bracelets? I don't know. I haven't had a friend in, I can't remember how long. That's sad. I know. Daniel stood. Well, we'll figure it out, but maybe start with something low stakes, like lunch. Lunch? Yeah. Normal people eat lunch together, talk about their day, complain about work. I can't complain about work. I own the work. Even better, you can complain about employees instead. Victoria smiled. All right, lunch. When? I don't know. Whenever. You're the one with the executive calendar. Thursday? Sure, Thursday. They stood there awkwardly for a moment, neither quite sure how to end this conversation. Finally, Daniel moved toward the door. Thanks for, the whole not firing me thing. I wasn't going to fire you. Could have fooled me. I was sweating bullets in the elevator. Were you really? Terrified. Thought for sure I'd overstepped. Victoria's expression softened. You didn't. You helped. There's a difference. Daniel nodded. Okay, good. Then I'll see you Thursday. Thursday. He left the office feeling like he'd just navigated a minefield in the dark and somehow made it out intact. The elevator ride down felt surreal. Had that actually happened? Had Victoria Langford just asked to be his friend? Marcus was waiting by Daniel's desk when he got back. Where'd you disappear to? Meeting? Daniel said vaguely. With who? Just department stuff. Marcus looked suspicious, but let it drop. Daniel spent the rest of the day in a fog, half focused on his work, half replaying the conversation in his head. That night, after Emma was in bed, Daniel's sister called. "So how was the party?" Amy asked. "Weird." "Weird how?" "Just weird." "Daniel, I swear if you're being cryptic to annoy me." "I'm not. It was just a weird night." Amy sighed. "Did you at least talk to anyone? Network? You know, like normal people do at work events?" Daniel thought about Victoria crying on her couch, asking him to stay. "Yeah, I talked to someone." "Good. Maybe you'll finally get that promotion you've been passed over for 3 times. It's not like that." "What's it like then?" Daniel didn't know how to answer. "I'll tell you when I figure it out." Tuesday passed in a blur of normalcy. Wednesday, too. Daniel picked Emma up from school, made dinner, helped with homework, read bedtime stories. The routine comforted him. This was real, his daughter, his apartment, the life he'd built from the wreckage of his divorce. Thursday morning, Daniel's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Noon? There's a cafe 2 blocks south on 3rd. Stephanie will send you the address. Victoria." Daniel stared at the message. She'd given him her personal number. The CEO of a multi-million-dollar company had given him her personal cell phone number. He typed back, "See you there." The cafe was small, tucked between a bookstore and a dry cleaner. Not the kind of place Daniel expected someone like Victoria to frequent. But when he arrived at noon, she was already there, sitting at a corner table wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual corporate armor. She looked almost normal. "Hey," Daniel said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Hi." Victoria smiled, and it looked easier than it had Monday. "Thanks for coming. Thanks for the cryptic text." "Was it cryptic?" "Little bit. Very spy movie." She laughed. "I was trying to be casual." "You failed, but points for effort." They ordered sandwiches and coffee. For the first few minutes, the conversation was stilted, awkward. 2 people trying to figure out how to be normal with each other when nothing about their relationship was normal. But gradually, it got easier. Victoria asked about Emma, and Daniel found himself talking about his daughter's latest obsession with marine biology and her insistence that they needed to visit the aquarium every weekend. Victoria told him about the COO she'd hired, a woman named Patricia who apparently didn't take any of Victoria's workaholic nonsense. "She physically removed my laptop from my hands yesterday," Victoria said. "Told me to go home at a reasonable hour for once." "Did you?" "I left at 7 instead of midnight. Baby steps." Well, Daniel grinned. Progress. They talked about Seattle, about the rain, about the weird coffee culture and the tech bros who'd taken over half the city. Normal stuff, easy stuff. Victoria seemed lighter somehow, less burdened, or maybe just less determined to hide the burden. "This is nice," she said at one point. "What?" "This, talking, not thinking about quarterly reports or investor calls or any of it." "Yeah, it is." "I'd forgotten what this feels like, just being." Daniel understood. He'd felt it too after his divorce, the weight of pretending lifting, even briefly. "It's easier when you're not performing." "Is that what I was doing? Performing? Aren't we all?" Victoria considered this. "I suppose, but some of us have bigger stages. Doesn't make the performance less exhausting." "No," she agreed quietly. "It doesn't." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Outside, the city moved past the window, people rushing, traffic humming, life continuing in its relentless forward motion. "Can I ask you something personal?" Victoria said. "Sure." "Your divorce. Do you regret it?" Daniel thought about Lauren, about the fights and the resentment and the slow erosion of everything they'd built together. "No, it was the right call. We were making each other miserable." "But it must have been hard." "It was. Hardest thing I've ever done. But staying would have been harder." "Do you think she regrets it?" "I don't know. Maybe. She wanted different things, a different life. I couldn't give her that." "So she left?" "We both did, just in different ways." Victoria nodded slowly. "I've never been married. Never even gotten close." "Why not?" Because I chose this instead. She gestured vaguely, encompassing the whole complicated mess of her life. The company, the career, it seemed more important at the time. And now? Now I'm not sure what's important anymore. Daniel looked at her, really looked. Saw the uncertainty, the loneliness, the slowly dawning realization that maybe she'd been running toward the wrong thing all along. "You've got time to figure it out," he said. "Do I? I'm 30. Most of my friends from college are married with kids, living these whole lives while I've been building an empire? Hiding." The word came out sharp, honest. "I've been hiding." From what? Everything. Relationships, vulnerability. The possibility that I might fail at something that matters. Business matters. Does it? Victoria's voice cracked slightly. I mean, really, in the grand scheme, does any of it actually matter? Daniel didn't have an answer for that. He thought about Emma's drawings on his fridge, the way she laughed at his terrible jokes, the fierce love that made everything else feel small. "I think what matters is different for everyone," he said finally. "What matters to you?" "My daughter, making sure she grows up knowing she's loved, that she can be whoever she wants, that she doesn't have to perform or pretend or hide to be worthy." Victoria's eyes were bright. "You're a good father." "I'm trying. That's more than a lot of people do." They finished their lunch, and Daniel walked Victoria back toward her building. The streets were crowded with lunch hour traffic, business people and tourists and the usual urban chaos. At the corner where they'd part ways, Victoria stopped. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For this. For treating me like a normal person. For not making it weird." Daniel smiled. "It is a little weird." "Okay, yes, but weird in a good way." "Fair enough?" She hesitated, then said, "Same time next week?" "Yeah, I'd like that." Victoria smiled, genuine, unguarded, and walked away. Daniel watched her go, hands in his pockets, wondering what the hell he'd gotten himself into. But despite the complications, despite the strangeness of it all, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. That maybe connection was possible. That maybe two lonely people could find something real in the middle of all the corporate machinery and pretense. Maybe. The lunches became routine over the next month. Every Thursday at noon, Daniel and Victoria met at the same small cafe, carving out an hour from their vastly different worlds to just talk. They avoided office politics, kept it personal. Books they'd read, movies they'd seen, the small frustrations and victories that made up normal life. Except Victoria's life wasn't normal, and pretending it was became harder with each passing week. "There's a gala next Saturday," she said during their fourth lunch, picking at a Caesar salad she'd barely touched. "Annual charity thing. Black tie, donors, all the people I'm supposed to impress." "Sounds fun," Daniel said, though his tone made it clear he meant the opposite. "It's torture. 3 hours of small talk and fake smiles." She paused, fork suspended mid-air. "Come with me." Daniel nearly choked on his coffee. "What?" "Come with me. To the gala." "Are you serious?" "Completely." "Victoria, I don't even own a tux. You can rent one. That's not the point. I'd stick out like I don't belong at those things." "Neither do I. Not really." She set down her fork. "But I have to go, and it would be easier with someone there who doesn't want anything from me." Daniel stared at her. "You know people will talk. Let them." "I'm serious. You show up with some random guy from operations, it'll cause problems." "What kind of problems?" "I don't know. Office politics, gossip, people assuming things." Victoria's expression hardened slightly. "I don't care what people assume." "Easy for you to say." "You're the boss." "Exactly. Which means I can bring whoever I want." Daniel rubbed his face. This was a bad idea. A terrible idea. Every instinct told him to say no, to maintain boundaries, to keep this strange friendship compartmentalized and safe. But Victoria was looking at him with something close to desperation. Not the CEO asking for a favor. The person who'd admitted she was scared, who'd slept 12 hours because she was finally able to let her guard down. "Fine," he heard himself say. "But if I embarrass you, You won't. You don't know that. I do. You're incapable of being anything other than genuine. It's refreshing. Daniel wasn't sure that was a compliment, but he let it slide. The gala was held at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel, in a ballroom that looked like something from a movie. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, servers in crisp uniforms carrying trays of champagne. Daniel felt ridiculous in his rented tux, like a kid playing dress-up. Victoria appeared in a midnight blue gown that probably cost more than his rent, her hair swept up, diamonds at her throat. She looked untouchable. Then she smiled at him, nervous, genuine, and became human again. "You clean up nice," she said. "I feel like an imposter." "Good. That means you're doing it right." They entered together, and Daniel felt every eye in the room track their movement. Whispers followed them like a wake. He recognized a few faces from the office, executives, board members, people who existed in rarefied air Daniel never breathed. Victoria's hand found his elbow. "Breathe." "I'm breathing." "You're holding your breath, I can tell." He exhaled. "Better?" "Marginally." The next 2 hours were a blur of introductions Daniel immediately forgot, conversations about market trends and philanthropic initiatives that went over his head, and increasingly creative ways to avoid the dance floor. Victoria worked the room with practiced ease, but Daniel noticed the small things, the tension in her shoulders, the tight smile when someone made a pointed comment about her being young for her position, the way her fingers drummed against her champagne flute when she was anxious. Around 9, she excused them both and led Daniel toward a balcony overlooking the city. The cool air was a relief after the stifling ballroom. Victoria leaned against the railing, closing her eyes. "That bad?" Daniel asked. "Robert Chen asked if you were my date." She opened her eyes. 3 times. "What'd you tell him?" "That it was none of his business." "That'll help the rumors." "I don't care about the rumors." "You should. People are vicious." Victoria turned to look at him. "Are you regretting coming?" "No, but I'm worried you will." "Why would I regret it?" "Because on Monday, everyone's going to be talking. They'll have opinions. They'll make assumptions. Let them." "Victoria." "Daniel, I've spent my entire adult life managing other people's opinions. I'm tired of it. For once, I just want to—" She trailed off. "Want to what?" "I don't know. Be myself. Whatever that means." They stood in silence, the city sprawling below them in a constellation of lights. Music drifted from the ballroom, something slow, orchestral. "We should probably go back in," Victoria said, though she made no move to leave. "Probably." Neither of them moved. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "I know this isn't your scene." "It's really not." "But you came anyway." "Yeah, well, you asked." Victoria smiled. "Is it always that simple for you?" "What?" "Showing up, being there. You make it seem easy." "It's not easy. I'm terrified half the time." "Of what?" "Screwing up, letting people down. Emma realizing I have no idea what I'm doing." He paused. "This, whatever this is. What is this?" Daniel met her eyes. "I don't know, but it feels important, and that scares me." Something shifted in Victoria's expression. Her guard dropped, just for a moment, and Daniel saw the raw vulnerability underneath. The loneliness, the longing for connection, the fear of letting anyone too close. "It scares me too," she admitted. The moment stretched between them, heavy with things neither of them knew how to say. Then someone called Victoria's name from inside, and the spell broke. They returned to the ballroom, circulated, made appropriate small talk. At 11, Daniel called it a night, claiming he had to relieve the babysitter. Victoria walked him to the lobby. "I'll see you Thursday?" she asked. "Yeah, Thursday." She hesitated, then leaned in and kissed his cheek. "Thank you." Before Daniel could respond, she was gone, disappearing back into the ballroom and the world she belonged to. Daniel touched his cheek where her lips had been and wondered what the hell he was doing. Monday morning, the whispers started immediately. Daniel heard them in the break room, saw the sidelong glances, felt the weight of speculation following him through the halls. Marcus cornered him before lunch. "Dude, what the hell?" "What?" Don't play dumb. You were at the gala with Langford as her date. I wasn't her date. That's not what everyone's saying. Everyone's wrong. Marcus studied him. Are you sleeping with her? Jesus, no. Then what's going on? We're friends. That's it. Friends. Marcus said it like the word didn't make sense. The CEO of this company is friends with you. Apparently. That's insane. Maybe, but it's also none of your business. Marcus held up his hands. Okay, I'm just saying people are talking, and not all of it is friendly. Let them talk. Easy for you to say, you're not the one they're calling a social climber. Daniel's jaw tightened. What? I'm just telling you what I heard. Some people think you're using her, getting close to climb the ladder. That's ridiculous. Is it? Nobody really knows you, Hayes. You keep to yourself, never socialize, then suddenly you're the CEO's +1 at the biggest event of the year. It looks suspicious. I don't care how it looks. You should. Perception matters in this place. Daniel walked away before he said something he'd regret. He spent the rest of the day avoiding eye contact and ignoring whispers. By the time Thursday rolled around, he was seriously reconsidering the whole friendship thing. Victoria noticed immediately when they met for lunch. What's wrong? Nothing. Daniel. He sighed. That people are talking at the office about us. I figured they would. It doesn't bother you? Should it? They're saying I'm using you, that I'm some opportunist trying to climb the corporate ladder. Victoria's expression hardened. That's absurd. Is it? From their perspective, it makes sense. Nobody knows why you'd be friends with someone like me. Someone like you. You know what I mean. I'm nobody. Don't. Her voice was sharp. Don't reduce yourself like that. I'm being realistic. You're being defeatist. She leaned forward. Who cares what they think? I do. Because it affects my job, my reputation. Emma's stability depends on me keeping this job. You're not going to lose your job. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. I own the company. That's exactly the problem. If you protect me, it proves their point. If you don't, I'm vulnerable. Either way, I lose. Victoria sat back, frustration evident. So what are you saying? We should stop this? I don't know. Maybe. Silence fell between them, tense and uncomfortable. Victoria stared at her untouched sandwich. Daniel watched the table. I don't have many people in my life, Victoria said finally. Actually, I don't have anyone. Patricia maybe, but she works for me. You're the only person who talks to me like I'm just a person, not a title, not an opportunity. Just Victoria. I know. If we stop this, I go back to being alone. And I don't think I can do that anymore. Daniel looked up. Her eyes were bright, but she wasn't crying, just honest, raw. This is complicated, he said. I know. People are going to make it harder. I know that too. And I'm not sure I'm strong enough to deal with it. The judgment, the suspicion. I've got Emma to think about. I understand if you need to step back. I didn't say that. Victoria blinked. What? I said it's complicated. I didn't say I wanted to stop. You don't? No, but we need to figure out how to do this without it destroying both our lives. A small smile crossed Victoria's face. Any ideas? Not really, but maybe we stop hiding it, stop trying to pretend it's something it's not. Which is? I don't know, but it's real. And maybe if we're just honest about that, whatever that means, people will eventually get over it. Or they'll make it worse. Possibly, but hiding hasn't worked so far. Victoria considered this. You're suggesting we just own it. Yeah, I mean, we're not doing anything wrong. We're friends. That's allowed. In theory. In practice, too. People can think whatever they want. Doesn't change the truth. Victoria's smile widened. When did you become wise? I'm not wise. I'm just tired of caring what people think. That sounds wise to me. They finished lunch with the tension dissipated, replaced by something lighter. When they parted ways, Victoria squeezed his hand. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on this. On me. Yeah, well, you're stuck with me now. I can live with that. The office gossip didn't stop, but Daniel stopped caring. Or he tried to. It was harder when Jennifer Park made a snide comment about social climbing, or when he overheard two people from accounting speculating about his relationship with Victoria. But he focused on his work, on Emma, on the Thursday lunches that had become the highlight of his week. Victoria seemed lighter too. The therapist was helping, she told him. She'd cut her work hours from 70 to 50, started sleeping more, eating regularly. The hollow exhaustion that had defined her that first night was fading, replaced by something that looked almost like peace. Patricia's amazing, Victoria said one Thursday in late November. She told me yesterday that I needed to stop micromanaging or she'd quit, just flat out said it. What'd you do? I laughed. Then I delegated 3 projects I'd been clinging to for no reason. Progress. It is, isn't it? I keep waiting for everything to fall apart without me controlling every detail. But it hasn't. The company's fine. Better than fine, actually. Turns out you don't have to do everything yourself. Turns out... She paused. My therapist says I have trust issues. No kidding, Victoria laughed. You're not supposed to agree that quickly. Sorry, but yeah, you do. I know. I'm working on it. She picked at her salad. She also said I use work to avoid dealing with emotions. Also not shocking. You're terrible at this supportive friend thing. I'm honest. That's different. Fair point. Victoria set down her fork. She asked about you. Daniel looked up sharply. What? My therapist. She asked about you, about our friendship. What'd you tell her? That you're the first real friend I've had in years. That talking to you makes me feel normal. That I look forward to Thursdays more than I should. Daniel's chest tightened. More than you should? Victoria met his eyes. Yes. The air between them shifted. Something unspoken hung there, heavy and dangerous. Victoria, I know. I know what you're going to say. That we're friends. That's all this is. That anything else would be complicated and messy and probably a disaster. Would it? She looked startled. Would it what? Be a disaster. I don't know. Probably. You have Emma. I have the company. Our lives don't fit together. No, they don't. So we're friends. Right, friends. But the word felt insufficient now, too small for what was actually happening between them. They didn't talk about it again that day, but it lingered. Daniel thought about it on the bus ride home, while making dinner, while reading Emma her bedtime story. Victoria's words echoed in his head. I look forward to Thursdays more than I should. He looked forward to them too. More than was probably healthy for a friendship with his employer. More than made sense for two people whose lives existed in completely different orbits. Emma noticed he was distracted. Daddy, you're not listening. Sorry, sweetheart. What were you saying? I said, do you have a girlfriend? Daniel nearly dropped the book. What? No. Why would you ask that? Because you smile at your phone sometimes, and you get dressed up on Thursdays. I don't get dressed up. You wear your nice shirt, the blue one without the coffee stain. Daniel couldn't argue with that. I have lunch with a friend on Thursdays, that's all. A friend who's a girl? Yes. Emma's eyes lit up. Is she pretty? Emma. Is she nice? Does she like dragons? Can I meet her? Whoa, slow down. It's not like that. Like what? Like anything. We're just friends. Emma looked skeptical. That's what Mommy said about Uncle Brian before she married him. Daniel winced. Lauren had remarried 6 months ago to her coworker Brian. Emma seemed okay with it, but it still stung sometimes. This is different, Daniel said. How? It just is. Emma studied him with the uncomfortable perception children sometimes had. You should bring her to meet me. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because it's complicated. You always say that when you don't want to explain things. She wasn't wrong. Daniel kissed her forehead. Get some sleep, dragon expert. Promise you'll think about it? About what? Bringing your friend to meet me. I'm very good at meeting people. Daniel smiled despite himself. I'll think about it. But thinking about it meant imagining Victoria in his small apartment, meeting Emma, seeing the life he'd built that was so far removed from boardrooms and galas. It meant blurring lines that were already blurry enough. It meant admitting this had become something more than friendship, even if neither of them was ready to name it. Thursday came again, and Daniel found himself sitting across from Victoria in their usual spot, trying to figure out how to bring it up. "You're quiet today," Victoria observed. "Yeah, just thinking." "About?" "Emma asked about you." Victoria's eyebrows rose. "She did?" "She wanted to know if you were my girlfriend, then asked if she could meet you." "Oh." Victoria set down her coffee cup carefully. "What did you tell her?" "That we're friends, that it's complicated." "It is complicated." "I know, but maybe—" Daniel trailed off. "Maybe what?" "Maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe we're making it complicated by overthinking it." "What are you suggesting?" Daniel took a breath. "Come to dinner this weekend at my place. Meet Emma. See the real, unglamorous version of my life." Victoria looked stunned. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm asking anyway." "What about the boundaries, the office politics?" "Screw the office politics. I'm tired of hiding, tired of pretending this is just casual Thursday lunches. Daniel, I'm not saying I know what this is. I don't. But it's something. And Emma's the most important person in my life. If you're going to be in my life, you should meet her." Victoria's expression was unreadable. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then quietly, "Okay." "Yeah?" "Yes, I'd like that. I'd like to meet her." Daniel felt something loosen in his chest. "Saturday? 6 o'clock?" "Saturday at 6. They finished lunch with a new energy between them, anticipation mixed with nervousness. When they parted ways, Victoria touched his arm. "Thank you for this." "Don't thank me yet. Emma's going to interrogate you about dragons and whether you believe in magic." Victoria smiled. "I can handle that. We'll see." Saturday evening, Daniel cleaned his apartment with a level of intensity usually reserved for pre-inspection military barracks. Emma watched with amusement. "Daddy, why are you being weird?" "I'm not being weird. You vacuumed twice. The carpet was dirty. You also put on cologne. You never wear cologne." Daniel stopped fluffing throw pillows he didn't remember buying. "I just want things to be nice." "Because your friend is coming?" "Yes." "The pretty one?" "Emma." "What? I bet she's pretty. Important people are always pretty in movies. Life's not a movie." The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. Daniel took a breath and opened the door. Victoria stood there in jeans and a simple sweater, her hair down, wearing minimal makeup. She looked nervous. Human. She held a small bag. "Hi." "Hi, come in." Victoria stepped inside and Daniel saw her take in the space. The worn couch, the crayon drawings on the fridge, the stack of children's books on the coffee table. The difference between this and her pristine apartment was stark. Emma appeared from her room, stopping short when she saw Victoria. "Whoa. Emma, this is my friend Victoria. Victoria, this is Emma." Victoria knelt down to Emma's level. "Hi, Emma. It's nice to meet you. Your dad talks about you all the time." Emma stepped closer, studying Victoria with intense focus. "Are you a princess?" Victoria laughed, surprised, genuine. "No. Why would you think that?" "Because you're really pretty, and you're dressed like a person, but you look like you could be a princess in disguise. That's the best compliment I've ever received." "Do you like dragons?" "I do. I think they're fascinating." "Even the scary ones?" "Especially the scary ones." Emma grinned. "I like her, Daddy." Daniel felt tension he didn't know he'd been holding release. "Good. Now go wash your hands for dinner." Emma ran off. Victoria stood, smiling. "She's wonderful." "She's something. I brought this." Victoria held up the bag. "I didn't know what to bring to dinner with a 6-year-old, so I got books. I hope that's okay." Daniel looked inside, 3 hardcover children's books, beautifully illustrated, about ocean creatures and space exploration. "She's going to lose her mind, thank you." "I wasn't sure if it was appropriate. It's perfect." Dinner was spaghetti and garlic bread, simple, unfancy, the kind of meal Daniel made 3 times a week. Emma dominated the conversation, asking Victoria approximately 800 questions about everything from her favorite color to whether she'd ever seen a real whale. Victoria answered every question with patience and genuine interest. She told Emma about seeing orcas in the San Juan Islands as a kid, admitted her favorite color was purple, confessed she was terrible at cooking and usually ordered takeout. "Daddy's a good cook," Emma said loyally. "He makes the best pancakes." "I bet he does. And he reads really good stories. Want to hear him read?" "Emma, Victoria probably has to go." "I'd love to hear a story," Victoria said. So they ended up on the couch, Emma between them, while Daniel read one of the new books Victoria had brought. Emma leaned against Victoria's side, completely comfortable, while Victoria's expression cycled through surprise, warmth, and something that looked like longing. When Emma finally started yawning, Daniel carried her to bed. She wrapped her arms around his neck. "I like Victoria," she whispered. "She's nice, and she doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby." "I'm glad you like her. Are you going to keep seeing her?" "Yeah, I think so." "Good." Emma yawned again. "I think she's lonely." Daniel paused. "Why do you say that?" "Because she looked sad when we were reading, like she wanted to stay forever. But kids saw things adults worked hard to hide." Daniel kissed Emma's forehead. "Get some sleep, dragon expert." When he returned to the living room, Victoria was standing by the window, looking out at the darkening street. "She's perceptive," Victoria said without turning around. "Yeah, too perceptive sometimes." "She said I looked sad. She told me you looked lonely." Victoria turned. Her eyes were bright. "She's not wrong." Daniel crossed the room slowly. "Victoria, this is what I've been missing." Her voice cracked slightly. "This. The messiness and the laughter and the feeling of being part of something real. I've built this whole life, this whole empire, and it's hollow, empty. And sitting on your couch reading to your daughter felt more real than anything I've done in years. You could have this." "Could I? How? I don't know how to build a life like this. I only know how to build companies." "So learn. It's not that simple." "Why not?" Victoria laughed, wet, bitter. "Because I'm terrified. Because every time I let myself want something like this, I sabotage it. Because work is safe and controllable, and relationships aren't." Daniel moved closer. "I'm terrified too." "Of what?" "Of this. Of whatever's happening between us. Of letting you into my life and Emma's life and having it fall apart. Of the office finding out and making everything complicated. Of falling for someone whose world is so different from mine that it can't possibly work." "Are you?" "Falling." Daniel met her eyes. "Yeah, I think I am." Victoria's breath caught. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then she closed the distance between them, and Daniel wasn't sure who kissed who first, only that it was happening and it felt inevitable. The kiss was soft, tentative, like they were both afraid it might shatter if they pushed too hard. When they pulled apart, Victoria's hands were shaking. "This is a terrible idea," she whispered. "Probably. It's going to be complicated." "Definitely. The office will have opinions." "They already do." Victoria laughed shakily. "What are we doing?" "I don't know, but I don't want to stop." "Neither do I." They stood there, foreheads touching, breathing the same air. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, something shifted, walls coming down, defenses crumbling. Two people choosing vulnerability over safety. "Stay," Daniel said quietly. "What?" "Stay. For a while. We'll figure out the rest later." Victoria nodded. "Okay." They moved back to the couch, sitting close, Victoria's head on Daniel's shoulder. They didn't talk much, didn't need to. The quiet said everything, that this was real, that it was scary, that neither of them knew what came next. But for tonight, it was enough to just be here, together. Two lonely people finding something neither of them had been looking for, but both of them desperately needed. Victoria left around midnight, and Daniel stood in the doorway long after her car disappeared down the street. His lips still tingled. His heart hadn't quite settled back into its normal rhythm. He touched his mouth, half convinced he'd imagined the whole thing. But the books Victoria had brought were still stacked on the coffee table. Emma's goodnight hug for Victoria, unexpected, instinctive, had been real. The kiss had been real. Daniel closed the door and leaned against it, unsure whether to laugh or panic. Sunday morning, Emma asked about Victoria over pancakes. Is she your girlfriend now? Daniel nearly dropped the spatula. That's, we're figuring things out. That means yes. That means it's complicated. You always say that. Because it always is. Emma considered this, syrup dripping from her fork. I think she likes you. What makes you say that? She looked at you the way Mommy looks at Brian, all smiley and soft. Daniel's chest tightened. Yeah? Yeah. And you looked at her the same way. When did you get so observant? I'm 6. I notice everything. She took another bite of pancake. Can she come over again? Maybe, if she wants to. She will. She told me she had fun. She told you that? When you were getting my pajamas, she said she hadn't had that much fun in forever and that I was lucky to have you as my dad. Daniel sat down heavily. She said that? Yep. Then she looked sad again, like she wanted something she couldn't have. Kids. They saw right through everything. Monday morning brought a text from Victoria before Daniel even left for work. Thank you for Saturday. Emma is wonderful. You're wonderful. I'm scared and excited and have no idea what I'm doing. V. Daniel stared at the message, then typed back. Same. All of it. Coffee this week? Yes. Wednesday? It's a date. He sent it before thinking about the word choice. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, it is, isn't it? Daniel smiled despite his nerves. Yeah, it is. The office felt different on Monday. Or maybe Daniel felt different. He moved through his morning routine, emails, meetings, logistics coordination, with a strange lightness. Marcus noticed. What's with you today? Nothing? Why? You're smiling. You never smile on Mondays. Maybe I had a good weekend. Marcus's eyes narrowed. This is about Langford, isn't it? I don't know what you're talking about. You're terrible at lying, Hayes. What happened? Nothing. We had dinner, that's all. Dinner? Yes. At your place? Daniel hesitated a second too long. Marcus's expression shifted from curiosity to something more serious. Daniel, man, you need to be careful. I know what I'm doing. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, this looks like a disaster waiting to happen. It's not your concern. It is when you're my friend and I don't want to see you get hurt, or fired, or both. Daniel appreciated the concern, even if he didn't want to hear it. I'm being careful. Are you? Because office romances are complicated enough without adding in the fact that she's the CEO. The power dynamics alone, I'm aware. Then what's the play here? You date secretly? Go public and deal with everyone thinking you're using her for advancement? There's no good outcome. Maybe I don't care about outcomes. Maybe I just care about her. Marcus went quiet, then softer. You're serious about this? I think so, yeah. Does she feel the same? I don't know, I think so. We're figuring it out. Marcus rubbed his face. Okay, just be smart about it. And for what it's worth, I hope it works out. Thanks. But if you get promoted before me, I'm going to be pissed. Daniel laughed despite himself. Deal. Wednesday's coffee date happened at a different cafe across town, somewhere they were less likely to run into coworkers. Victoria arrived wearing sunglasses despite the overcast Seattle weather. Incognito? Daniel asked, paranoid. She removed the sunglasses. Is this ridiculous? I feel ridiculous. Little bit, but I get it. They ordered coffee and found a corner booth. For a moment, neither spoke. The kiss hung between them, unaddressed. So, Victoria started. So, Saturday was, yeah. She smiled nervously. Are we going to talk about it or just keep agreeing it happened? Probably should talk about it. Probably. Victoria wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I haven't stopped thinking about it. Me neither. which is a problem because I have a company to run and I've spent 3 days distracted and useless. Sorry? Don't apologize. It's not a complaint. Just an observation. She met his eyes. I like you, Daniel. More than I should. More than is probably smart given the circumstances. The circumstances being that you're my boss. Among other things, our lives are very different. You have Emma to consider. I have a company and responsibilities and a public profile that makes privacy nearly impossible. So this is a bad idea. Objectively, yes. Terrible idea. But? Victoria's lips quirked. But I can't seem to care. I've spent my whole life making smart, calculated decisions. And where has it gotten me? Lonely and exhausted in a perfect apartment that doesn't feel like home. So what are you saying? I'm saying I want to try this. Whatever this is, even if it's messy and complicated and probably doomed. Daniel felt something unlock in his chest. Yeah? Yeah, if you want to. I do, but we need rules, boundaries. Agreed. Like what? Daniel thought for a moment. No special treatment at work. I don't want anyone thinking I'm getting ahead because we're together. Done. What else? Emma comes first. Always. If this affects her negatively, then we stop. I understand. And we're honest about everything, the doubts, the fears, all of it. Victoria nodded. Honesty. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. They sat with that for a moment. Then Victoria reached across the table and took his hand. This is terrifying, she said. Yeah, but good terrifying. The kind that means something matters. Daniel squeezed her hand. When do we tell people? I don't know, not yet. Let's just be us for a while. Figure out what this is before we have to defend it to everyone else. Secret relationship with the CEO. Very scandalous. You're enjoying this. Little bit. Victoria laughed, and Daniel realized he was falling harder than he'd thought. This wasn't just attraction or curiosity. This was the real thing. Messy, complicated, inconvenient, and utterly unavoidable. They kept it quiet for 3 weeks. Saw each other when they could. Dinner at Daniel's place when Emma was with Lauren, late-night phone calls after Emma went to bed, stolen lunch meetings at obscure cafes where no one knew them. It felt like being teenagers sneaking around, which was both ridiculous and kind of thrilling. Victoria started showing up at Daniel's apartment on Friday nights, bringing takeout and helping Emma with art projects. She was surprisingly good with kids, patient, engaged, genuinely interested in Emma's endless stories about school and friends and the elaborate fantasy world she was building. You're a natural, Daniel said one night after Emma had gone to bed. Victoria looked surprised. Am I? Yeah, she adores you. I adore her. She makes everything simple, you know? There's no pretense. She just is. That's kids for you. I never thought I wanted this. A family. The whole domestic thing. But being here... Victoria gestured at the apartment, the drawings on the fridge, the scattered toys, the lived-in warmth. It feels right. Daniel pulled her close. Yeah, it does. But reality had a way of intruding. The office gossip hadn't died down. If anything, it had intensified. People noticed when Victoria smiled at Daniel in meetings, when she asked his opinion on projects, when they left for lunch around the same time. Jennifer Park started making pointed comments. Marcus warned Daniel that people were watching. Even Patricia, Victoria's COO, pulled Daniel aside one day. I don't know what's going on between you and Victoria, she said bluntly. And honestly, I don't care, but whatever it is, be careful. The board's already questioning some of her recent decisions. If they think she's compromised, she's not compromised. I know that, you know that, but perception matters, especially for a young female CEO. They're looking for reasons to doubt her. Daniel felt anger rise. That's bullshit. It is, but it's also reality. Just be smart, both of you. Daniel told Victoria about the conversation that night. She took it better than he expected. Patricia's right. The board's been restless lately, looking for cracks. Because you're delegating more? Because I'm actually living my life instead of being married to the company. They don't like it. What are you going to do?" Victoria was quiet for a moment. "Keep doing what I'm doing. I'm better at my job now than I was when I was burning out. The numbers prove it. If they can't see that, that's their problem. And us? What about us? If they find out, they will eventually. We can't hide forever." She turned to face him. "I don't want to hide. I'm tired of pretending my personal life doesn't exist. So we go public? Eventually. When we're ready, when it feels right." Daniel nodded, but anxiety gnawed at him. Going public meant scrutiny, judgment, questions about his motives and her judgment. It meant Emma being pulled into the spotlight, gossip columns speculating, coworkers treating him differently. But it also meant being honest, not sneaking around, actually building something real instead of hiding in the shadows. The decision was made for them 3 weeks later. Daniel was picking Emma up from school when he got the call. Victoria's voice was tight, controlled, her CEO voice. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Someone saw us at the cafe last Tuesday, took pictures, sent them to the board." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Shit. There's an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. They want answers." "What are you going to tell them?" "The truth, that we're seeing each other. That it doesn't affect my ability to run this company. That my personal life is my business." "Victoria, I know what this means, but I'm not lying. And I'm not apologizing for being happy." Daniel heard the steel in her voice. The CEO was back, armored and ready for battle. But underneath, he heard fear too. "What do you need from me?" he asked. "Nothing. Stay away from the office tomorrow. Keep Emma close. This is going to get messy." "I'm not hiding." "Daniel, no. We're in this together. If you're facing the board, I'm there." "That's not necessary." "It is. Because if they're questioning your judgment, they need to see that this is real. That I'm not some opportunist. That we're both adults making a conscious choice." Silence on the other end. Then quietly, "You're sure?" "Yeah, I'm sure." "Okay, tomorrow, 9 a.m., conference room B." Daniel spent that evening explaining to Emma that he needed to go to an important meeting in the morning, that Mrs. Chen would watch her before school. Emma sensed his tension. "Is everything okay, Daddy?" "Yeah, sweetheart. Just work stuff." "Is Victoria okay?" "She will be." Emma hugged him tight. "Tell her I said good luck." Daniel arrived at Langford Industries at 8:45, wearing his best suit and feeling like he was walking into an execution. Victoria met him in the lobby, looking composed but pale. "You didn't have to come." "Yes, I did." She took his hand briefly. "Thank you." The conference room held 12 board members, all looking varying degrees of disapproving. Daniel recognized a few faces. Robert Chen, who'd interrogated him at the gala, Margaret Yates, who ran a venture capital firm, Thomas Brennan, who'd founded the company with Victoria's father. Victoria stood at the head of the table. Daniel took a seat in the back, trying to be inconspicuous. Robert started. "Victoria, we've asked you here to discuss some concerning photographs that came to our attention. You and Mr. Hayes appear to be in a relationship. Is that accurate?" "Yes." "And you didn't think to disclose this to the board?" "My personal life isn't board business. It is when it involves an employee. The optics alone, the optics are that I'm a human being with a personal life. Last I checked, that wasn't against company policy." Margaret leaned forward. "Victoria, we're concerned about judgment, about conflicts of interest. Mr. Hayes reports to people who report to you. The power dynamic is something we're both aware of and actively managing. Daniel hasn't received any special treatment. His performance reviews are handled by his direct supervisor, not me. His compensation is standard for his role. There's no favoritism." Thomas spoke up, his voice gentler. "Victoria, no one's questioning your competence. You've done remarkable things with this company. But relationships like this can be complicated. What happens if it doesn't work out? The potential for harassment claims, hostile work environment. Then we deal with it like adults. But we're not making decisions based on fear of what might happen. That's not how business works." Victoria's jaw tightened. "Maybe it should be." Robert's voice turned sharp. "This is exactly what we're talking about. You've changed, Victoria. You're working fewer hours, delegating more, making personal decisions that affect your availability and focus. And now this relationship has made me better at my job, not worse. I'm sleeping, eating, actually thinking clearly instead of running on fumes. The company's performing better than ever. Revenue's up 18%. Employee satisfaction scores are the highest they've been in 5 years. We just closed 2 major deals. What exactly is the problem? The problem is propriety. The problem is you're the face of this company, and your choices reflect on all of us. Daniel couldn't stay quiet anymore. He stood. Excuse me, can I say something? All eyes turned to him. Victoria looked alarmed. Robert looked annoyed. Mr. Hayes, this doesn't concern you. Actually, it does. You're sitting here questioning Victoria's judgment because she's in a relationship with me. So yeah, I think I get a say. Margaret gestured for him to continue. Daniel took a breath. I'm 32. I've worked here for 2 years in a job that no one notices until something goes wrong. I drive a beat-up car and live in a 2-bedroom apartment in Ballard. I have a 6-year-old daughter who's the center of my world. I'm nobody special, just a regular person trying to get by. We're aware. Let me finish. Victoria didn't seek me out. I helped her one night when she was exhausted and alone, and we became friends. Then more than friends. Not because I saw an opportunity, but because she's funny and smart and kind and more human than anyone in this room is giving her credit for. She's not some corporate robot who exists only to make you money. She's a person, and she deserves to have a life. Robert's expression hardened. That's very touching, Mr. Hayes, but it doesn't change the reality of the situation. Which is what? That she's happy? That she's performing better than ever? Or that you're uncomfortable because she's not conforming to your image of what a CEO should be? You're out of line. Maybe, but someone needs to say it. You're treating her like an asset to manage instead of a person to support, and that's wrong. Thomas studied Daniel for a long moment. Do you love her, Mr. Hayes? The question caught Daniel off guard. The room went silent. Yes, Daniel said finally. I do. Victoria's eyes went wide. They hadn't said it yet, not out loud. But sitting in this sterile conference room defending their right to exist together, Daniel knew it was true. And you, Victoria? Thomas asked. How do you feel? Victoria looked at Daniel, then at the board. I love him, and his daughter, and the life we're building together. It doesn't interfere with my work. If anything, it makes me better at it because I'm not slowly destroying myself anymore. Margaret sighed. This is highly irregular. So is having a 30-year-old female CEO. But you hired me anyway. You trusted my judgment then. Trust it now. The board members exchanged glances. Finally, Thomas spoke. We're going to need some safeguards. Documentation that Mr. Hayes isn't receiving preferential treatment, regular reviews, full transparency. Done, Victoria said immediately. And if this relationship ends, then one of us leaves the company, voluntarily. We've already discussed it. Daniel blinked. They hadn't discussed that. But Victoria caught his eye, and he nodded. It made sense. Robert still looked unhappy. I'm not comfortable with this. Noted, Victoria said coolly. Is there anything else? Just this. We're watching, Victoria, closely. Any sign that this is affecting your performance or judgment won't happen. Are we done? Thomas nodded. We're done. For now. Victoria and Daniel left the conference room together. In the elevator, Victoria sagged against the wall. That was hell. You were amazing. I was terrified. Didn't show. Good. She looked at him. Did you mean it? Which part? That you love me. Daniel stepped closer. Yeah, I did. Do. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I love you too. I should have said it first. You were standing there defending me, and I just... Daniel kissed her, soft, brief. It's okay. Is it? Because I just told the board I'd quit if we break up, which is insane pressure to put on a relationship that's barely 3 months old. So, don't break up with me. That simple? That's simple. Victoria laughed wetly. You make everything seem easy. It's not easy, but it's worth it. They emerged from the elevator into the lobby. People stared. Whispers followed them. Daniel took Victoria's hand and she didn't pull away. "Guess we're public now," he said. "Guess so. How do you feel?" Victoria squeezed his hand. Terrified. Relieved. Mostly relieved. "Yeah, me too." They walked out of the building together into the gray Seattle morning. Rain had started falling, light and persistent. Victoria tilted her face up to it. "I have 6 meetings today. Better get to them." "Come to dinner tonight, you and Emma?" "We'd like that." "Good." She kissed him quickly. "I love you, Daniel Hayes." "Love you too, Victoria Langford." She walked back into the building, shoulders straight, ready to face whatever came next. Daniel watched her go, then headed to his car. His phone buzzed, a text from Emma, sent from Mrs. Chen's phone. "Did it go okay? Is Victoria okay?" Daniel smiled and typed back, "Everything's okay, Dragon Expert. See you after school." The office gossip exploded over the next week. Some people were supportive, most had opinions. Daniel's inbox filled with congratulations mixed with thinly veiled warnings. Marcus bought him a beer and told him he was either brave or insane. "Both," Daniel said. "Probably." But the work continued. Daniel did his job, Victoria did hers. They were professional at the office, personal everywhere else. It wasn't perfect. They fought about boundaries, about time, about how much to share with Emma. Victoria struggled with letting go of control. Daniel struggled with feeling inadequate compared to her world. But they showed up, both of them, every day, choosing each other even when it was hard. 2 months after the board meeting, Victoria came to dinner with news. "The board approved my proposal." "Which one?" "Stepping back. I'm transitioning to chairman. Patricia's taking over as CEO." Daniel stared. "You're serious?" "Completely. I'll still be involved, but less day-to-day. More strategy, less operations. It means normal hours. Actual work-life balance. Time for..." She gestured between them. "This." "Are you sure? The company's your life." "It was. But I want a different life now. One that includes you and Emma, and maybe someday..." She trailed off. "Someday what?" Victoria's smile turned shy. "Maybe someday more, if you want that." Daniel pulled her close. "Yeah, I want that." Emma wandered in. "Want what?" "Adult stuff, Dickie," Daniel said. "Does adult stuff include Victoria moving in? Because her toothbrush is in the bathroom and she has clothes in your closet." Victoria and Daniel exchanged glances. "How would you feel about that?" Victoria asked Emma carefully. "If I moved in?" Emma pretended to think about it. "Would you still bring books?" "Always." "And help with my dragon project for school?" "Of course." "Then okay, you can stay." Simple as that. From the mouth of a 6-year-old who saw the world exactly as it was. Complicated, messy, but ultimately about the people you loved and who loved you back. Victoria moved in officially 3 weeks later. Her pristine apartment got rented out to some tech executive who probably appreciated the minimalist perfection. She brought her books and clothes and slowly, gradually, made Daniel's apartment feel like home. It wasn't smooth. They argued about dishes and schedules and how to handle Emma's tantrums. Victoria had to learn that not everything could be managed and controlled. Daniel had to learn that asking for help wasn't weakness, but they figured it out, together. 2 imperfect people building something real from the wreckage of their separate loneliness. And on Friday nights, after Emma was asleep, they'd sit on the couch. The same couch where Victoria had once cried about being scared, and just be. No performing, no pretending. Just 2 people who'd chosen to see each other, really see each other, and decided that was enough. More than enough. Everything. 6 months into living together, Victoria woke up at 3 in the morning in a cold sweat. Daniel felt her leave the bed, heard the bathroom door close, the sound of running water. He waited 5 minutes before following. She was sitting on the edge of the bathtub, still in her pajamas, staring at nothing. "Hey," he said softly. Victoria didn't look up. "I had a nightmare." "About what?" "The company, the board, everything falling apart because I chose this over that." She gestured vaguely. Because I chose you. Daniel sat beside her on the tub's edge. You didn't choose me over the company. You chose balance. Did I? Because some days it feels like I abandoned everything I built. Patricia's doing an amazing job, better than I was doing, and part of me resents that, which is insane. It's not insane. It's human. I spent 15 years building that company from nothing. It was my identity, my purpose, and now I'm just, what? A girlfriend? A stepmom adjacent person? Who am I without the CEO title? Daniel took her hand. You're Victoria, the person who brings Emma books about marine biology because she mentioned liking dolphins once. The person who learned to make pancakes even though you burned the first 5 batches. The person who cries at sad movies and laughs too loud at my terrible jokes. You're not just a title. But what if that person isn't enough? Enough for who? Victoria's voice cracked. For me. For you. For anyone. Daniel pulled her close. She resisted for a moment, then collapsed against him. I don't know how to be ordinary, she whispered. I only know how to be exceptional. You're still exceptional, just in different ways. Like what? Making school lunches? Remembering to buy milk? Yeah, like that. Like showing up, like being present. Like choosing connection over achievement. He kissed her forehead. That's harder than running a company, and you're doing it anyway. Victoria was quiet for a long time. Then, I saw my therapist yesterday. Didn't tell you. Okay. She said I have worth outside of my accomplishments, that my value isn't tied to productivity or success or how many hours I work. She laughed bitterly. I didn't believe her. Do you believe me? I'm trying to. They sat on the bathroom floor until dawn crept through the window. Emma found them there at 6:30, confused but adaptable in the way kids are. Why are you guys sleeping in the bathroom? We're not sleeping, Daniel said. Just talking. About boring adult stuff? Yeah. Emma shrugged and went to find cereal. Victoria watched her go, then turned to Daniel. I don't want to mess her up. You won't. You don't know that. What if I'm terrible at this? What if I ruin everything by not knowing how to be normal? Nobody knows how to be normal. We're all just faking it and hoping nobody notices. Yeah, Victoria smiled despite herself. Even you? Especially me. Half the time I'm convinced I'm doing everything wrong with Emma. That she'll grow up and realize I had no idea what I was doing. But you love her. Yeah, and that's enough most days. The rest, you figure out as you go. Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder. I love you, both of you, so much it scares me. I know, love you too. Work settled into a new rhythm. Daniel got promoted, not because of Victoria, but because his supervisor recognized his work. The promotion came with scrutiny, with people questioning whether it was legitimate, but Patricia shut that down fast. Hayes earned this, she announced in a staff meeting. His performance reviews speak for themselves. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me. Nobody took it up with her. Victoria's transition to chairman was rocky at first. She struggled with letting go, with trusting Patricia to make decisions she would have agonized over. But slowly, gradually, she learned to step back, to advise without controlling, to support without micromanaging. It's weird, she told Daniel one night, watching someone else run my company. It's not your company anymore, it's Patricia's. I know, that's the weird part. I thought I'd hate it, but I don't. I'm relieved? That's growth. That's terrifying is what it is. Who am I if I'm not grinding myself to dust for this company? You're someone who gets to have dinner with her family. Who can take Emma to the aquarium on a Tuesday because she has time? Who sleeps 8 hours and doesn't answer emails at midnight? Victoria considered this. I took Emma to the aquarium last week. She told me 17 facts about sea otters. I heard. Multiple times. She's incredible. How did you raise someone so confident and curious? I didn't. She just is. I just try not to screw it up. You're a good father, Daniel. I'm adequate. There's a difference. No, you're good. You show up, you listen, you make her feel seen. That's good. Daniel looked at Victoria, really looked. 6 months ago, she'd been wound so tight she could barely function. Now she sat in sweatpants on his couch, hair in a messy bun, makeup-free, arguing about parenting philosophy like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You're good too," he said. "At what?" "This. Being here. Being real. Emma adores you. She tolerates me. She asked me yesterday if you were going to be her mom someday." Victoria went very still. "What did you tell her?" "I said that was up to you and her to figure out, that I couldn't decide that for either of you." "And what did she say?" "She said she hopes so because you're nicer than her real mom's new husband." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "She said that?" "Yeah. Brian's apparently kind of a jerk about vegetables." Victoria laughed and cried at the same time. "I don't know how to be a mom." "Nobody does. You just love them and try not to screw them up too badly." "That's your parenting philosophy? Try not to screw them up?" "It's worked so far." Victoria wiped her eyes. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you want more kids?" Daniel blinked. That's a big question." "I know, but I've been thinking about it. I'm 31. If I want kids, I should probably start thinking seriously about it. And I don't know if you want more, or if Emma's enough, or..." "Yes." "Yes what?" "Yes, I want more kids. With you, if that's what you want." Victoria stared at him. "Really? Really? I always thought Emma would be an only child because Lauren didn't want more and then we divorced. But yeah, if you want kids, I'd love that. Even though it'll be chaos, even though I have no idea what I'm doing, especially because of that. We'll figure it out together, like everything else." Victoria kissed him then, hard and desperate and full of hope. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. "Not right now, though." Daniel laughed. "No, not right now. Let's get married first, at least." The words hung in the air. Victoria's eyes went wide. "Was that... Did you just propose? Kind of. Maybe. I don't have a ring or a plan or any of the romantic stuff. But yeah, I want to marry you, if you want that." Victoria's hands were shaking. "That's the least romantic proposal ever." "I know. I'm terrible at this." "Ask me again. Properly." "Now?" "Yes, now." Daniel slid off the couch and onto one knee, feeling ridiculous in his old t-shirt and pajama pants. "Victoria Langford, will you marry me? No ring, no plan, just me and Emma and whatever chaos comes with us." "Yes, obviously yes." They were both laughing and crying when Emma appeared in the doorway. "Why is everyone crying? Did someone die?" "No, sweetheart," Daniel said. "The opposite. Victoria and I are getting married." Emma's face lit up. "Really? Really? Does that mean she's staying forever?" "If she wants to." Emma looked at Victoria. "Do you want to?" Victoria's voice was thick with emotion. "Yeah, I really do." Emma launched herself at Victoria, hugging her tight. "Good, because I already told my friends you were basically my bonus mom, and it would be embarrassing if you left now." Victoria laughed and hugged her back. Over Emma's head, she met Daniel's eyes. He saw everything there, the fear, the hope, the tentative belief that maybe, just maybe, this could work. They got married 4 months later in a small ceremony at the courthouse with Emma as the witness and Patricia and Marcus as guests. Nothing fancy, no corporate event, just two people promising to show up for each other, to be honest even when it was hard, to choose connection over perfection. Victoria wore a simple dress. Daniel wore the same suit from the board meeting. Emma wore a tutu because she insisted weddings required tutus. Patricia cried. Marcus made inappropriate jokes. It was perfect in its imperfection. The office handled it better than expected. Some people were genuinely happy. Others remained skeptical. A few left the company, unable to separate their perception of favoritism from reality. Patricia made it clear that anyone who had issues with Daniel's presence could take it up with HR. Nobody did. Life settled into something resembling normal. Daniel went to work, came home, helped with homework, made dinner. Victoria attended board meetings, consulted on strategy, but left at 5 most days. They fought about stupid things, whose turn it was to do dishes, how to handle Emma's occasional tantrums, whether to get a dog. They got the dog, a rescue named Captain, who was afraid of everything and slept in Emma's bed. Victoria, who'd never had a pet, became obsessed with him. Daniel found her reading dog training books at midnight. "You're insane," he told her. "He needs structure, consistency. He's a dog, not a company." Same principles apply. Emma loved Captain. Captain loved Emma. Victoria learned to relax her need for control enough to let a neurotic rescue dog into her life. It was progress. A year after the wedding, Victoria came home early from a board meeting looking shaken. Daniel was in the kitchen with Emma, helping her build a volcano for science class. "What's wrong?" Victoria set down her bag carefully. "Thomas died. Heart attack this morning." Thomas Brennan, the board member who'd asked if Daniel loved Victoria, who'd ultimately sided with them against the other's skepticism. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. "He left me a letter. His assistant gave it to me today." Victoria pulled an envelope from her bag. "Want to read it?" Daniel took the letter. Thomas's handwriting was shaky but clear. "Victoria, I won't be around much longer. Bad ticker, doctors say. But I wanted you to know I'm proud of you. Not for building a company, though that's impressive. I'm proud because you chose to be human. Because you loved someone and let that love change you. Because you're brave enough to want more than just success. Your father would be proud too. He built companies, but he never built a life. You're doing both. That's the real achievement. Be happy. Thomas." Daniel handed the letter back. Victoria's eyes were wet. "He was right, you know," she said quietly. "My father built an empire and died alone in a hospital room surrounded by lawyers. I almost did the same thing. But you didn't. Because you wouldn't let me. Because you saw me that night and decided I was worth saving. You saved yourself. I just stuck around." Victoria shook her head. "No, we saved each other. I was drowning in my own ambition, and you were drowning in loneliness. And somehow we found each other." Emma looked up from her volcano. "Are you guys being mushy again?" "Yeah," Victoria said, pulling Emma into a hug. "We are. Gross, but also kind of nice." They scattered Thomas's ashes in the San Juan Islands where Victoria had seen orcas as a kid. The board held a memorial. Victoria gave a speech about legacy and what it meant to build something that lasted. Daniel stood in the back and watched her command the room with the same authority she'd always had, but softer now. More human. After the memorial, Robert Chen approached Daniel. "I owe you an apology." Daniel was surprised. "For what?" "For doubting you. For assuming you were using her. You weren't, and she's better for knowing you. The company's better." "I was wrong." "Okay." "That's it? Just okay?" "What do you want me to say? You were wrong. You admitted it. That's enough." Robert smiled slightly. "You're good for her. Keep doing whatever you're doing." "I plan to." That night, Victoria told Daniel she was pregnant. "Are you sure?" "Took 3 tests, all positive. I have a doctor's appointment next week to confirm, but yeah, I'm pretty sure." Daniel sat down heavily on the couch. "That was fast." "We've been trying for 4 months." "I know, it's real now." "Are you okay with it being real?" Daniel looked at her, really looked. She was terrified. He could see it in the way she held herself, the tension in her shoulders, the uncertainty in her eyes. "Yeah," he said. "I'm okay with it. Are you?" "I'm terrified. I don't know how to do this. I barely figured out how to be Emma's bonus mom, and now I'm supposed to grow an actual human and keep it alive?" "You'll figure it out. We'll figure it out." "What if I'm terrible at it?" "You won't be. You don't know that." "I do. You learn to make pancakes even though you burn them every time. You learn to help with homework even though Common Core math makes no sense. You learn to love a neurotic rescue dog who's afraid of his own shadow. You'll learn this too." Victoria's laugh was shaky. "That's your pep talk? I learned to make pancakes so I can handle pregnancy?" "Yeah, pretty much." "You're terrible at this." "I know." He pulled her close. "But I'm here. That counts for something, right?" "Yeah, it does." They told Emma at dinner, She processed the information with the seriousness of a child who'd just been given enormous responsibility. So I'm going to be a big sister? Yes, Victoria said. Is that okay? Emma considered this. Will the baby be annoying? Probably. Babies are usually pretty annoying. Will it cry a lot? Almost definitely. Can I teach it about dragons? When it's old enough, yes. Emma nodded, satisfied. Okay, I'll allow it. Daniel and Victoria exchanged glances over her head, trying not to laugh. The pregnancy was hard. Victoria threw up constantly for the first 3 months. Her body betrayed her in ways she couldn't control, and control was still her default setting. She cried over everything: commercials, dropped spoons, the fact that her jeans didn't fit. Daniel learned to just be there, to hold her hair back when she was sick, to rub her feet when they hurt, to not try to fix everything because some things couldn't be fixed, only endured. Emma was surprisingly helpful. She'd bring Victoria crackers when she was nauseous, draw pictures to cheer her up, pat her stomach and talk to the baby about important things like dinosaurs and friendship. You're going to be a good sister, Victoria told her one night. I know, Emma said with the confidence of a 7-year-old. I'm good at everything. Humble too. What's humble? Never mind. The baby arrived on a rainy October night. A girl. They named her Sarah, after Victoria's mother who died when Victoria was young. Sarah came out screaming and angry and utterly perfect. Victoria held her and sobbed. She's so small. They usually are, Daniel said, exhausted and relieved. How did you do this? How did you take care of Emma when she was this tiny? Barely. I had no idea what I was doing. That's not reassuring. It's honest. They brought Sarah home to chaos. Captain was confused by the crying. Emma was fascinated but also a little jealous. Victoria was overwhelmed by the reality of a newborn who needed constant attention. I can't do this, she said at 2 a.m. on the 3rd day, holding a screaming Sarah who wouldn't stop crying. Yes, you can. I can't. I don't know what she needs. I don't know why she's crying. I'm failing already. Daniel took Sarah gently. You're not failing. You're learning. There's a difference. How did you figure out Emma? I didn't. I just tried different things until something worked. Sometimes nothing worked and we both just cried. That's your strategy? Try stuff and cry? Yeah, pretty much. Victoria laughed through her tears. We're doomed. Probably, but we'll be doomed together. They figured it out slowly. Sarah had colic, which explained the constant crying. Victoria learned to swaddle her, to walk with her, to sing off-key lullabies at 3 a.m. Daniel handled the logistics: diapers, bottles, doctor's appointments. Emma helped by being surprisingly patient with the screaming baby who'd invaded her space. Patricia visited and brought casseroles. Marcus came by with inappropriate onesies that said things like future CEO and daddy's little board member. Amy, Daniel's sister, flew in from Portland and spent a week showing Victoria the basics she'd missed by not having anyone to teach her. You're doing fine, Amy told her. All new moms feel like they're failing. Even the ones who ran companies? Especially those ones. Companies make sense. Babies don't. 3 months in, Victoria had a breakdown at 4 a.m. Daniel found her in Sarah's nursery, rocking the baby and crying silently. I thought I could do both, she said when she saw him. Keep working, be a mom, have it all. But I can't. I'm exhausted all the time. I miss board meetings because Sarah's sick. I can't focus on strategy reports because I'm worried about her sleep schedule. I'm failing at everything. Daniel sat beside her. You're not failing. I am. I'm a terrible board chair and a mediocre mother, and I don't know who I am anymore. You're Victoria, mother, wife, businesswoman, dragon enthusiast. Dragon enthusiast? Emma's rubbing off on you. Victoria smiled despite herself. I wanted to prove I could have it all. Career and family, success and connection. But maybe that's impossible. Maybe all looks different than you thought. What do you mean? I mean, maybe you don't have to be CEO level involved in the company anymore. Maybe being a consultant, a strategic advisor is enough. Maybe being Sarah's mom and Emma's bonus mom and my wife is the real achievement. Not because the company doesn't matter, but because this matters more. Victoria looked at Sarah, sleeping peacefully now. When did you get wise? I'm not wise. I'm just a guy who learned the hard way that success means nothing if you're alone. I'm not alone anymore. No, you're not. Victoria resigned from the board 2 months later, stepped back completely. It made headlines in the business section. Billionaire CEO chooses family over fortune. People had opinions. Some called it admirable. Others called it weakness. Victoria stopped reading the articles. Do you regret it? Daniel asked her one night. No, I built something incredible, but I'm building something better now. A family? A life. One where I'm actually present, where I get to see Sarah's first steps and Emma's school plays and have dinner with my husband without checking my phone every 5 minutes. That's boring compared to running a company. It's not boring. It's real. And I spent so long chasing extraordinary that I forgot ordinary can be pretty amazing. Emma started 3rd grade. Sarah learned to walk, then run, then cause havoc. Captain got less neurotic and more confident. Victoria learned to embrace imperfection, burnt dinners, mismatched socks, spontaneous dance parties in the kitchen. Daniel got promoted again, this time to senior director. He'd earned it through years of solid work, and nobody questioned it anymore. Marcus threw him a party. Patricia sent a congratulatory email that said, "About damn time." On their 3rd wedding anniversary, Daniel and Victoria sat on the back porch of the house they'd bought in Ballard. Bigger than the apartment, with a yard for the kids and the dog. Sarah was asleep inside. Emma was at a sleepover. For once, they were alone. You ever think about that first night? Victoria asked. At the party, when you came over to check on me. Sometimes, you looked like you were about to shatter. I was. I would have if you hadn't stopped me. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe, but it would have taken longer and hurt more. She took his hand. You saved my life, Daniel. You saved mine too. I was just going through the motions before you. Work, Emma, sleep, repeat. You made me want more. We're quite the pair, 2 broken people who fixed each other. We're not fixed, we're just less broken together. Victoria laughed. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said. I have my moments. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge in the Seattle sky. Inside, Sarah started crying. Victoria started to get up, but Daniel stopped her. I've got her. You stay. You sure? Yeah. Enjoy the quiet. Daniel went inside and picked up Sarah, who immediately stopped crying. He walked her around the living room, humming softly. Through the window, he could see Victoria on the porch, head tilted back, finally at peace. This was it. The life they'd built from nothing. Not perfect, not easy, but real. Emma came home the next morning full of stories about her sleepover. Sarah toddled around getting into everything. Captain barked at shadows. Victoria made pancakes that were only slightly burnt. Daniel helped Emma with her homework while fielding work emails. Normal. Chaotic. Beautiful. That night after the kids were in bed, Daniel found Victoria in Sarah's room, watching her sleep. You okay? Yeah, just thinking. About? About how different my life is now. 3 years ago, I was alone in a perfect apartment, slowly burning out, convinced success meant sacrificing everything else. And now I'm here, with you and Emma and Sarah and Captain, living in chaos. And I've never been happier. No regrets? None. Turns out what I thought I wanted, the empire, the prestige, the power, that was just fear. Fear of being ordinary, fear of being vulnerable, fear of needing anyone. And now? Now I know that being extraordinary isn't about what you achieve. It's about who you love and who loves you back. It's about showing up imperfectly every day and choosing connection over comfort. She turned to look at him. You taught me that. I didn't teach you anything. You learned it yourself. With your help. Daniel pulled her close. We helped each other. That's what partners do. They stood in the doorway of their daughter's room, watching her sleep, holding each other in the quiet darkness. Outside, Seattle hummed with its endless energy. Inside, 2 people who'd once been strangers, one a powerful CEO afraid to be human, one a single father convinced he was ordinary, had built something neither could have imagined. Not an empire, not a fortune, just a life. Messy, imperfect, real. And that was more than enough. It was everything. Because sometimes the most profound success isn't measured in quarterly reports or board meetings or headlines in the business section. Sometimes it's measured in burnt pancakes and sleepless nights, and the quiet moments when you realize you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone see you, really see you, in all your imperfect, broken, human glory, and trust that they'll stay anyway. Daniel had seen Victoria that rain-soaked Friday night, standing alone at a corporate party, unraveling behind her perfect facade. He'd made a simple choice to step forward instead of away, to offer help instead of judgment, to see a person instead of a title. And Victoria had let him, had chosen vulnerability over control, had admitted she was scared and lonely and lost, had taken the terrifying leap of letting someone into the fortress she'd built around herself. That choice, that single moment of courage from both of them, had changed everything. Years later, Daniel would sometimes think about the man he'd been before Victoria, going through the motions, doing enough to get by, convinced that his small life was all he deserved, and he'd feel grateful for the night that changed his trajectory. Victoria would think about the woman she'd been, isolated, exhausted, afraid to stop moving because stopping meant feeling. She'd remember the moment Daniel asked if she'd eaten, if she'd slept, if she was okay. The moment someone cared about her as a person instead of as an asset. Neither of them was the same anymore. They'd been shaped by each other, by Emma and Sarah, by the daily choice to show up imperfectly and love anyway. That was the real story. Not about a billionaire and a regular guy, not about power dynamics or office politics or overcoming obstacles. It was about two lonely people who found each other in the chaos, who chose to be seen, who learned that being ordinary, being human, was the most extraordinary thing of all. And in the end, that was enough, more than enough, everything that mattered.